Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. And today we have a special guest who is a former pro snowboarder turned CEO mom, who's a serial entrepreneur who started a company called Baby Legs previously and is currently operating a company called Happy Camper. So let's give a great warm welcome to Nicole Donnelly. So Nicole, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's Monday. So, what could be better?
Monday's always a great day. It's the start of a new week, new opportunities, just a matter of making things happen.
Yeah. And with this lifestyle, I could choose to work on a Monday or not, depending on how I'm feeling.
Right. It's always a matter of what you want to be able to do. If you want to take the day off, you can. So, Nicole, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what your background is.
Yeah, so give you the quick version. I studied history, German, and photography in school, and didn't really want to do anything with any of those. And so after school, I dropped out and went snowboarding. And I used to compete in snowboarding, traveled around a bit doing that, lived in my car for 4 years, and I met my daughter's dad in the off season. Got knocked up, had a kid, and started my first company, Baby Legs, because she had a diaper rash really bad from different food allergies when we first started feeding her. And so I'd cut off my snowboard socks, pull them up over her knees, and it protected her knees when she was crawling, and she could have a naked bum. Yeah. So we got into the diaper-free parenting world and connected to people all over the globe. In this little community, and that's what really started my connection with everybody virtually, and also filling a need that so many parents had, and it would make their lives easier if they just had this product. And so I made it my mission to get out there and make sure that all parents knew about it. And it turned into a fashion item, before we knew it. And we were in 85 countries in 3 years. And after a couple of years, they sold the company, a couple more after that. We were in all Target stores, Nordstroms, everywhere. Sold it and then started a social media company and had that for 5 years and grew it and sold it. I also had a condom company for about 3 years that I had bought. That was an interesting experience. And
right.
It was after my first company, though, I told my daughter's dad, I said, I'm always going to do this. Like, I'm always going to have my own thing, and I'm not going to be able to go back. I could never go back after that. I realized, what a drive I have for it. And I had anticipated homeschooling my daughter and being there. I did not think that business would be my thing. I had no inkling of that, or, it's not something I had wished to do. But it's at my core. So I do some business consulting now. I'll only take on 2 to 4 clients at a time, and they have to be people I like and products I like, and, people I'll have fun with. And then I started Happy Camper for my daughter. Really, I sold the 2 companies that I had and needed to get back to something with more heart. And my daughter was the source of starting the first company, and I kind of got away. With traveling so much for the business, I missed my daughter. And so I wanted to start something where she would be really involved. She's 12 now. And so any speaking engagement that I get, I have it that she gets to go with me. And
now that's great.
Yeah. And she went to Nashville for a gig with me, and it was speaking to a group. It's children with rare diseases and their parents and caretakers. And I speak about emotional intelligence now. And
Okay.
For this group, it's talking to them about how to create the environment they want in their friends and family. And the impact that it made was like, it wasn't an ROI anymore. It's ROH, return on heartbeats. And the return on heartbeats for that experience was so great, and that my daughter could be there too. And she was so proud. Because so many of the stories I tell are about her, and so much of the book is about her and our experiences together, that it's empowering for her. And that's like taking life into consideration that way, and having more balance of ROH and ROI is this next phase in the big shift.
Now that's great. It's incredible that you've built a business, a lifestyle that allows you to keep your daughter at the center of it, because so many people, they end up sacrificing one or the other. You think about how many people in the world that said they want to have the greatest family life, but then they sacrifice the ability to have a career, or it's the other way around. They want the career, but then they end up sacrificing their family life.
Yeah, and don't forget health. There's you got to work out, you have to eat well. There's all of those things, and you want to have friends, and you want to hang out with your friends. There's all those areas of life that they need nourishment, and they need to be taken care of. And so the way that I've designed my life now is so much more in balance than it was before. Like before, I also weighed 30 pounds more. I was so stressed out. I had my back go out on me, where I was on the floor and could not move. I had that happen a couple years in a row, and it just had so much stress because I was so focused in the business and kind of let it run me instead of running my own schedule and life. And now I take a look at my calendar. I put in my workouts. I put in my daughter's stuff, field trips, whatever it is. And so I might be working at night and she's sleeping, and I'm okay with that because that's the balance that I want. I was at the farm with her all day on Friday, and I got to do some work from there because she's helping out with horse camp, and luckily they have Wi-Fi there.
That's important these days.
Yeah. So I can sit out there and, do the work while she's doing her thing, and we can have lunch together. And, it's just this flow of not even looking at a work week from Monday to Friday, but it's continuous flow of 7 days a week of how do I want to spend time with my daughter, with working out, with work, so that it all gets done.
Right. And that's a great way to view it, because you're doing it differently, that there's not a distinction that, say, suddenly Saturday comes along, okay, all work has to come to a grinding halt. That you're able to do things when you want to. You're able to work on the days that you decide. You want to spend time with your daughter doing the things that you want to do, regardless of what day they fall on.
Yeah.
And that's valuable.
It is. And on Saturday, she was occupied. She had some activities, and so I was working. I don't know what time it was in the morning. I think it was 10:30 in the morning. Started working with a client in the Netherlands, which I'm lucky to have. I love working with people in different countries too, and so I'm working with the Netherlands on Saturday morning and then also last night because of time difference, but it's kind of nice. And then, today, this, and,
right.
and I can go for a bike ride, and, I've got a dinner meeting, but it's I can just have this constant ebb and flow of when I want to work. And I actually look at, there's these things called conscious calendar, and it shows astrological energy. There's green days, red days, and kind of whatever days. And so I look at that too. And if there's a red day coming up, I'll just take it off and clear my calendar and use it for meditation and not try to do things on those days. So really try to get in a rhythm that maximizes like what natural energy flow would be as well.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about conscious calendar. Is it something that I don't think people are aware of?
Yeah, you can subscribe to it and it will tell you, like based on, if you're a woman, which I know you're not, and I can speak to this,
Yeah.
we've got monthly cycles, and if
Right.
we're not on any, prescriptions, then it should follow the moon. And when we're in sync, we have different, high energy times and low energy times of the month. And so, like being a female, I can base my work also on when I'll have more energy. Like I might have a day that I know I'll have more energy, and so I'm going to dedicate that to whatever writing and just spend all day on producing content, because that requires focus and flow. And if I'm not feeling it, then maybe I'll want to Netflix and chill. And
Right.
so I look at my calendar like 4 months out, and I'll look at conscious calendars for kind of the astrological days that are best for like launching programs or emails. And then I also I look at my own schedule and see when are like really good days for prospecting.
Okay.
So that I can maximize my output.
Okay. Now that's just it's a new way that, of doing things. You just don't hear about that of picking that cycle. So you choose the ideal day to do something instead of like, Tuesdays, it doesn't matter. I always do this, instead of, well, that might not be the best day for it consistently.
Yeah, and if you're someone who likes variety, it makes it more interesting because it's never going to be the same. And so you can still kind of have that fun in your schedule instead of doing the same thing. I mean, there's some things that have to get done and you do them consistently. But you can also chunk some of the projects or pick launch dates, based on when the force will be with you.
Right. That would be May the 4th, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a matter of, when you look at things, you have to do things when it's going to feel right. And it's great that you're looking out, because I think for a lot of business owners, sometimes they want to rush and do things instead of taking the necessary steps to make sure something's going to be successful.
Yeah. And, this is, and it's not like a law that this stuff works or doesn't work or whatever, but I figure it's a good guiding tool. Like if you look at Mercury retrograde, that's the time when technology often fails. It's not the best time to launch anything, and people will have successful launches during a Mercury retrograde, So, but if I choosing when to do something, I'll just look at when the best time to do it is, and back plan from there. And it helps me to pick dates too, because then I'll have a time in the calendar, because whatever it is you're working on, you have to pick a date, to launch something.
Right.
And you might just pick some arbitrary date that's like, well, might as well go with something that has a little bit more energy behind it.
Right, exactly. You have to choose the dates and the times that really make a difference. So now, winding back the clock a little bit to when you had your first venture with Baby Legs, what were some of those lessons learned that that still play a role today as you're advising clients in business?
I learned so much from that business. Like I learned so much of where I really messed up, and also things that really worked. So I'm really good with systems and process. And back planning. So creating a future vision, and we'll always make sure we do that. And then the plan to work to the vision, with good strategy, with numbers, measurements, milestones, all of that. I'm big into measuring everything and making it as efficient as possible. So with a client right now, they're in this just ship stuff every day, and there's no planning. There's no planning on labels, let's say, making labels. Like, okay, well, let's look a month out. How many shipments do you think you'll have? How many labels do you need to print for your product? And let's do a whole month at a time instead of like 2 days.
Right.
And just get ahead of it. Because with Baby Legs, we were a year ahead of design and actually having the designs on hand so that we could do photo shoots in the proper season. And then we could have our product in for long lead press. We could do everything we needed to because we were that far out. And most fashion companies will be that like year or 2 years out. And so that they can have their manufacturing and everything set up. So if you can look out ahead a bit, then that's really helpful. And so we'll do the planning, and that's something that I help people get ahead and get efficient systems. And also then it makes purchasing efficient too, if you have to buy things. If you can buy, 30 days at a time instead of 1 or 2 days at a time, because then you're paying a premium.
Right. Definitely. It's anything you can incorporate economy of skill in, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So then in terms of those big lessons learned, what was that one thing you could say that if I would have known this beforehand, you would have done it differently?
Well, when we did our operational merger, when I sold the company, what I got from that is that I had a really great business, and I didn't appreciate how good it was and how well we had run it until after that. And so I didn't have the confidence that I could grow it past where we were. Right. And like now I know that I can do that. And seeing the contrast of the business that we integrated with and ours, like, oh, this huge business can run like this. Like they're so behind in production schedule or, things like that. And it was a real eye opener for me that I had done a really good job and I totally didn't appreciate it. And I think it didn't give myself enough credit for it. I was just always, and this is strength, and where the strength was a weakness is I'm always looking forward. I'm always looking at the future and where we're going, and not appreciating where we were at the time and, what we had done at the time. So I don't know that I'd do anything differently, but I definitely would have appreciated what we had more at the time.
Right. And sometimes that's something we tend to forget about. We are always looking outward instead of taking that brief moment to look inward and realize, oh, the grass is pretty green right here instead of over there. It's AstroTurf or whatever.
Yeah. And so we do gratitudes. I'm part of a group on Facebook, and we put our 5 gratitudes. I do it every night. And I will also go over gratitudes verbally with my daughter at night. So we say that our gratitudes before bed. And, the reticular activating system in your brain looks for more of what you put into it. It looks for more 24 hours a day. It's the thing like when you're car shopping and you're looking at the Honda Elements, and then all of a sudden you see Honda Elements everywhere.
Right.
It's that part of the brain. And so if you put gratitude into it, then it'll look for more things even while you're sleeping. It works 24/7 to find more things to be thankful for. So pretty soon then you're just thankful for everything and can appreciate everything. And so that's one of the first practices that I do, like with coaching too, is, just being grateful for things, like for what you have and how they are and relationships you have. And then I think the way that you interact with people changes too.
Oh, definitely. It has a huge impact. Now, with gratitude, when did you first discover its impact that it could have in your life?
Well, so when I was a kid, I would, there's things like wishing on a star, or when we drive over railroad tracks to like lift up your feet and make a wish.
Right.
Or you're driving through a tunnel and you hold your breath and then make a wish on the other side.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I started just a mental gratitude. Like I was, thankful for whatever, instead of wishing.
Okay.
And I don't know why I just started doing that, or thinking about like, I'll just have this, I love my daughter, thinking about that, instead of wishing, because wishing for something, like it's not an action that's going to bring it into being.
Right.
And so it's being thankful for what is here, and then also like thankful for what you're creating too.
Right.
So I started doing that as a kid, which I found was like not normal also.
Right.
And then really I've gotten religious in the practice of it. When my daughter was little, we would say our thank yous before bed. And it's just expanded, I don't know, the last like 3 or 4 years probably, on me really writing down my gratitudes every day.
Okay, so you write your gratitudes out in the morning and the evenings, or just once a day?
I usually do it before bed, because anything you do before bed, it's the most powerful thing like that sets in your brain. Because during the day, like starting your day out with meditation or gratitude is great too, because it sets the tone for the day. But like if your brain can subconsciously work on something while you're sleeping, like again, efficiency of systems. Right. So before bed, like if my daughter's got a spelling test or something, we study right before bed. And she can study other times too, but usually before bed's the most important, because then your brain like keeps on working on it while you're sleeping.
Right.
So gratitude's before bed, and then like guided meditation.
Okay. And so then how are you incorporating guided meditation to the process?
I just go on YouTube and find something, and I just, while I'm laying in bed, will do guided meditation. And sometimes it's not guided. Sometimes it's just there. And that's another luxury, I guess, is like in the middle of the day I can do something. Or I had an ovarian cyst rupture in July, and I was on bed rest for a couple of weeks. And so I would do more guided meditations during that time. And you can do different ones for healing. Sometimes, like if I'm frustrated, it's like releasing your subconscious anger, like whatever it is. Lately, let's see what I'm on. Let's see. Well, so there's a deal that I'm working on and working on closing. So it's been law of attraction. So as a hypnosis for, attraction. Yeah.
So now then, after you had the ovarian cyst rupture and you started doing guided meditations, how did that impact your health in terms of improving it?
Again, I think it's just becoming peaceful with how things are. And I'm a firm believer in that you can heal your body yourself, pretty much no matter what's wrong with it. Like I've broke my leg and did no prescription painkillers. I just did some natural herbal things when I was snowboarding, and had knee surgery and just natural anti-inflammatory stuff. And so having the connection between your body and, that mind-body connection is so, so important.
Right.
And so then I get reflective and I look at them like, okay, what's going on in my life that caused this? Because it could be dietary, but a lot of times it's stress, and it's stress about a certain thing. Like if my neck starts bothering me, I know it's stress about money. And so anytime I've got Louise Hay has this book that will go, you can look it up online too. Louise Hay, on her blog, there's a list of like everything that could be wrong with your body and energetically where that comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I, look at that and pick some meditations that will work on that area too.
Okay. Now that's an interesting resource because I think in society we're conditioned that if there's something wrong, take a pill for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, just suck it up, it'll be fine later. That's the normal reaction instead of how can you begin addressing the problem, the root cause of it, and make adjustments to your life so you can be able to make a change.
Yeah. Well, and with my first company too, I'd get so stressed out. Like I had my back go out on me a couple of times, like full on, where I was, like I said, literally in my office, I was laying on my floor and I could not move. And I know that's because of how I was handling stress. And I certainly wasn't meditating every day. And I was just so stressed out, so stressed out. And I guess that's a big reason for this happy camper stuff too. Is it's an emotional intelligence model, so you can look at what monsters are coming out and where you're experiencing frustration, and look at the emotional needs that are not being met. And you can identify it in yourself, and you can identify it in others. So there's like the first step is that self-management. So it's like I'm experiencing the stress and frustration, and really looking into what's causing it, or where I'm triggered. Because somebody asked me, they're like, well, what if you don't like somebody at work and you have to see them all the time? It's like, well, if you don't like them, there's probably something you don't like about yourself, because like the perfect human being will love everybody. Because we are all, like, again, like the Force, like we're all one. We're all the same person. Yep. It's just, I'm seeing something in you that's triggering me. And it's really taking responsibility for yourself can help to get rid of those frustrations and annoyances.
Right. Oh, definitely. So when you started Happy Camper, and you mentioned it was in part because of your daughter, out of all the choices, why did you go down this route? Because it seems like you have this diverse background of businesses, everything from from baby legs to social media to and so on. Like, this is an interesting switch.
It is. And honestly, like, I will be having products around this. I can't wait to do the little leg warmers with the Happy Camper characters. Because it's just fun, and I can't stay away from products. I really like products. And I think that's in my karma, dharma, whatever. It's something that I was born with. When I was a kid, I used to invent things, and I wanted to be an inventor. So I always had this product thing. And then sometime around the 6th grade, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And from then until I started taking psychology classes in university, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I just thought that all of that stuff was interesting. So in a way, I'm getting back to where I was when I was in the 6th grade, and really getting to understand, like, I love doing this because I did so much leadership education, and I took and distilled the most impactful for me parts of the leadership education that I wanted my daughter to have. So I put up this little poster on our wall, and it's something we used every day. And my daughter was frustrated that the people at school, the kids at school, didn't understand this. The teachers didn't understand. And she's got this emotional intelligence about her and this understanding of people. And so I was like, okay, sweetie, well, how about if let's sell the companies I have. We're going to start this one and make sure that all the kids in your generation have access to it.
Well, now that is an impressive statement, because you look at what difference and impact that can have in children's lives if you can begin instilling the emotional intelligence at an earlier age of how their thoughts and their emotions lead to the actions they take.
Yeah, and the idea is with this, everyone will feel cared about. And if everybody felt cared about, there would be no domestic violence, there would be no gun violence, there would be none of this happening. if people felt cared about. And,
Right.
so this is the grand, like, peace on earth kind of a thing. But really, like, if people just need the tools to understand themselves, understand others, and then we can create more empathy and compassion. And emotional intelligence can be learned. It's not just something you're born with. It's not like IQ, and
Right.
and everybody can learn this at any age. And that's the beauty of it is it's okay not to understand and not to know. And once you do, it's like there's a shift that happens, and you can start to take responsibility and for yourself and how you are in relationships with others.
Right, definitely. So now, what makes the happy camper model of emotional intelligence different than, let's say, other models out there?
There really aren't too many models out there, and that's the problem. It's based on the same principles that have been around since the 70s.
Okay.
But nobody's put it so concisely that can just push it out. So I went to Scholastic with this, and Scholastic will put it in all the schools if we get sponsorship money.
Okay.
And we can reach every school-age kid with this program. And because there's nothing that has covered it. So there are different emotional intelligence programs. But I think that my background in marketing and social media and all of that is helpful because I understand kind of the consumer side, and I look at it as a business, not from an education standpoint. And it's different because a lot of the emotional intelligence stuff it's started by educators, and that's important, but then there's not the business acumen. So no one has taken over this space from a business perspective. Like, nobody owns or dominates this space really in a way that there's a program behind it. So there's emotional intelligence, Travis Bradbury, who's all over on LinkedIn. But there's not a program that goes with his information. He does a lot of articles and he has books.
Okay.
But there's not really anything to implement and that you would hang up at home and put on your wall that will, help your relationships and your family that way.
Okay. Now, how did you start recognizing there was a need for this? Since it's been around for a while and you just decided, oh, here's opportunity. What was that defining moment?
Well, it was less about opportunity and more about impact. And it was from a bunch of Tinder dates that I went on.
Okay.
I went on about a dozen Tinder dates over a 2-week period a couple of years ago in the summertime. And it was kind of this experiment. And I was listening to the story that I was telling on my dates. You go out and you're like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm up to. And I didn't like the story that I was telling. I was like, my life sounds ridiculous right now. To me, it's not the story I want to tell. And when it came down to what is the one thing that I want to do, because I always do a lot of things. Like, I do the consulting and business coaching and stuff. But the impact that I want to make is like, I want to support my daughter, and I want to get this out to every family, every parent, every teacher, because it'll make this next generation be able to grow up with this emotional intelligence and like just more peaceful and less violence. And that's an impact that I can make on the world. And I know it's going to take like 10 to 12 years, I'm guessing, to get to the level where I want it. And so I was thinking about what I'm really committed to, and I'm committed to this world being a better place for our kids. And, then how can I contribute to that? Like, this is how I can contribute.
Okay. And that in itself, that's so powerful. It's, to have that epiphany, to make that change. And before you had that, what was the story that you were telling people that you just didn't like and you realized Because you mentioned that here's what you want, but then what's because people sometimes need to understand what is that shift that they should be making.
Well, so at the time I had a social media company, and I also had the condom company. And with the condom company, like, we got a lot of press, did interviews. It was kind of fun and a good learning experience, but I did not want, that's not the legacy I wanted to leave behind. That's not what I wanted to be. Like, social media company, like, big deal. That was so not interesting to me anymore, and not at all. I did not want to talk about it. Well, okay, so Sam Horn, she's an amazing coach. She coaches speakers for, like, TED Talks, things like that, and really getting a concise, punchy message. And I went to hear her speak, and she said, well, what do you want to talk about for the next 2 years? And I knew it wasn't social media, and I knew it wasn't condoms.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to talk about this stuff anymore. I'm so tired of it. Like, 5 years of talking about the same thing. And I was so done with it. But I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And so I started listening to what I was talking about, like in the dates, but then also when I was on an airplane, what do I talk to the people in the seats next to me about? And I would tell them about this emotional intelligence model. And that was the thing that over this, like, year since I heard her talk, or 18 months, whatever it was, it took me a while. But that was the question I asked myself every day, is what do you want to talk about for the next 2 years? And so I started hearing what I was talking about. And the happy camper model was coming up over and over and over.
Okay. Now, what exactly is the happy camper model that you've created?
Yeah, so it's really simple. There's 6 basic emotional needs that we have. And when the needs aren't met, these little monsters come out. So we all have... Okay. Yeah, it's very simple. And at happycamper.world, you can download the poster for free. And you can just put it up at home. And having the awareness that those are there, it's that reticular activating system in your brain. You'll start to notice when these little monsters come up. So we all have the need to connect. We have the need to create, have fun and freedom. We have the need to be in control and produce results, to build something. We need to be in control of ourselves, peaceful, and support others. We need to be unique and be in integrity and achieve things, like do the things that we say we're going to do. And then we also have the need to lead, which is us learning and growing and passing that on to somebody else.
Okay. So when you created this model here, what has been the impact that people have had once they said, oh my, this is different? How's it impacted people's lives so far?
Well, the biggest thing, so we have like 5 little ground rules that go along with it. And the biggest thing that I see, I went to eBay and did a lunch and learn for some of their leadership there. And one woman came in the room and she was really, she had the cubicle life and was in there stressed out because they had just separated from PayPal. So there was a lot of stress and insecurity about who's going to lose their jobs. And so she just had this like heavy look when she came in the room. And so a coworker of hers, I guess, wasn't being so nice, and we talked about it. And what she got was that it wasn't about her. And with the little ground rules and just the process, she was able to not take it personally anymore. And realize that that's that person's little monster coming out. And once you can view some of that negative behavior as a little monster, it's so disarming. And it creates this shift. And she looked like she lost 50 pounds. She was bright and less stressed. And in just an instance of, it's not just an understanding from an intellectual perspective, it is a visceral thing that you get. And again, this is a psychology thing that when you look at something and understand it, it's different than being told and understanding. So if you visually see the model on the wall, then your brain has to process it differently as opposed to somebody telling it to you.
Right.
And by taking that step in between of visually processing, it removes or it lessens the emotions of something. So like with children, I taught baby sign language. And with kids, if you sign no, they don't respond with yes. But if I tell you no, you're going to be like, yes, I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so when my daughter was little, she'd get mad and she's signing no, but she would get quiet instead of escalating and getting loud when she was upset. Or when she wanted our attention, she would get quiet and sign. And
interesting.
Yeah. And so when you see the sign, then the kid processes it and owns it as opposed to objecting to it. So when you look at this model, and I put the model just up on the whiteboard there, she could identify with it herself and took the moment, like it's that little step that shifts how you perceive something in a visceral way. And so you're less reactive to it. So it's just like, it's so incredibly disarming that when you see a monster now, like my daughter's teacher was having a conversation with me, and he's a tall Afghani man. So he could be very intimidating because I'm not tall and I'm not a man. And like, I'm 5'4", and he's, 6 something. And he's really upset about something. And he's talking to me, and I just look at him, and I look at him from this, like he's a little kid and these monsters are coming out, and he doesn't know how to express himself, and so he's really frustrated. And I can have compassion for him in that moment. I can also not take it personally. I can smile a bit and get curious about what is going on with him, that he's so upset, and then really address the upset, address the issue, and not take it on at all, and not take his stress on, not be upset by it. And so now I can go personally, like I can go into situations that are really high stress or conflict and be peaceful.
Oh, that's excellent. As it makes a difference when you can be the peaceful one in a room and begin to disarm the whole situation.
Yeah, and that's why I love doing this. Like I work with some CEOs or go into a company and they tell me what their frustrations are. Like they might have a frustration over a client. It might be internal team conflict. And within just, 5-minute conversation, we can pretty much disarm whatever it is and get to the root of the cause of the issue. And it is so cool to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and with kids, parental conflict with kids, it's so easy to see now, like see where I was watching this dad and daughter on the farm, and where the dad's monster was and where the daughter's monster was, and they were ridiculously like playing together. The monsters were in such a way like it was escalating and escalating, and the dad was getting more pissed and the daughter was getting more annoying,
Yeah.
I just wanted to step in and be like, so can I just tell you what I see is going on here?
Right. And that happens so much out there in the world.
It does. And so if you can realize what the little boy inside of you is once in a moment, when you're frustrated or, what you're afraid of, and you think about the little kid, you can have so much more compassion for yourself in a frustrating moment and so much more compassion for other people. Because
right. Oh, definitely.
You don't look at a 2-year-old throwing a temper tantrum and be like, that guy's an asshole.
Right. At least I hope not. That'd be a little disturbing. Like, oh, that little bastard. That'd be really odd.
We give them that grace. We give them the next day or the next moment. We don't label them. But with adults, somebody has a moment and they're not kind, then we label them. We're like, that guy's a jerk. And forevermore, he'll be a jerk in your eyes. He wasn't just having a moment, not like a little kid.
Right. Oh, definitely. So what are some of the ways that people can become aware of what's happening in terms of emotional intelligence in their lives right now?
Well, download the poster for sure. And
Oh, definitely.
and then I've got some webinars on YouTube that show how to use it too. So there's 4 areas of this emotional intelligence. So there's self-awareness. You'll get to know yourself and what is going on, and that's what you can notice. And self-management. So then when you have frustrations come up, like how are you dealing with it? Which of these monsters comes out? And then there's relationship management, social awareness, and relationship management. So like something's going on with my daughter, I'm like, oh, this is what's coming up for her. This is how I can be with her so that, her monster is disarmed. And and it creates a really great flow, and you can take a step back and be that conscious observer of a situation instead of in it and, being in fight or flight.
Right. Okay. So with that being said, what is the one thing that people should start doing today to become aware of their emotional intelligence and begin creating shifts in their lives?
Don't make yourself wrong and don't make somebody else wrong. So when you're upset about something, get curious and be like, oh, why am I upset? Why am I triggered? And when somebody else is mad, like this is my challenge with my daughter is in my head, I'm always thinking, don't make her wrong. Don't make her wrong. Because the second I make her wrong, she's going to fight back and debate it.
Right.
And if I can not make her wrong and still get my point across, it's like a challenge to me. It's a little game. Like, okay, How can I say this so I'm not making her wrong and I'm getting my point across?
Right.
But try that. Like, get curious and don't make people wrong. Don't make yourself wrong. Like, it's okay. You're frustrated. We're human beings, it still happens. And yeah, like try that script, like the get curious and don't make her wrong. Don't make him wrong. People are just being human.
Right. Oh, definitely. People are always going to be human, especially every time they look in the mirror like, yep, it's still me.
Yep.
So now with that, how can people learn more about Happy Camper and ultimately the courses and programs and the different products that you have to offer the world?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook. There's a Happy Camper Facebook page, and then we'll do subgroups depending. So we have a Happy Camper parenting group. We also have a Team Happy Camper group, which is a lot around fitness. Like not everybody, but a lot of people from the Happy Camper team did their first triathlons last year. And so when awesome. I talk about balance in life, it really is like and it's these people that are supporting each other from a physical way, or, then in the parenting group, there's discussions about parenting. Happycamper.world is the website. There are a lot of blog posts and articles that address like kind of different angles. And you know what? You can send an email to hi@happycamper.world and I will get it. And if you have any questions, like you could have 10 questions, I might make a webinar out of it for you and post it online, and I won't use your name, and then you can get your questions answered. But if you go to the website, you'll be able to see, and on the Facebook page, really, like what's going on when webinars come up. A lot of that's on Facebook. That gets updated more often than the website does.
Oh, that's excellent. So then, as your mission is one of the things you want to do is obviously get Happy Camper into the schools. Mm-hmm. How can people support you do that?
If anybody knows a big corporation that wants to sponsor this, they can have their name on it and it'll go into the schools. And also foundations can sponsor it. Not all companies, it's got to be approved by the system. Like Coca-Cola can't sponsor it, but Microsoft can. Mm-hmm. And also you can buy books for your local school. If you're a parent and you want it in your classroom, that's also available. I think just spreading the word. And then also will come in, and I've got other facilitators, And we can come into a company and facilitate a happy camper lunch and learn. We can do an all-day workshop, and get everybody in the like small company, big company, whatever it is, and work with them on the happy camper model. It'll make workplaces more peaceful, and it'll make homes more peaceful.
Oh, that's great. Anytime you can be able to make an environment more peaceful, it's an incredible thing to do.
Yeah, because there's enough work that needs to get done in the office. You don't need to deal with like drama. Oh yeah, there's also a drama triangle download. I think it's in one of the blog posts, but the drama triangle is a really quick shortcut to disarming a drama moment at any time.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Okay. Well, there's the hero, the victim, and the villain. And we can play any of those roles. And if you find yourself in hero mode, you're like, I'm going to do this. Like moms will go into hero mode for their kid and just do everything. Well, if you turn into a coach, you can coach your kids to do the stuff for themselves. And then you don't have to come in and save the day all the time. And so being a coach would be the opposite of that one. Then there's the villain, which, teacher, parent also a lot of times could go into villain mode, boss saying, you have to do this, you need to do it my way, and get villainous about it. Or, you could be getting bad service at a restaurant and you could berate the person and be a villain. Or you could challenge your server to step up and provide better service. And just in your language with somebody or your kids, your coworkers, you can turn into a challenger and really challenge people to up their game instead of being a villain. And then the victim, which we're all familiar with, the victim mode is when you're feeling put upon and you're just like, oh, the world is against me, this isn't working out. And the victim can turn into a creator. And the creator looks at, what am I here to do? What do I want to create? And then tells everybody, gets the hero involved or the challenger, they can get everybody involved in what they want to create by sharing that with people. So yeah, anytime, like victim is a big one I see. And when people are feeling in victim mode, it's like, all right, well, what do you want to create? Let's focus on that. And it can get you out of victim mode.
Right. And what's someone's typical response when you see them in victim mode and you say to them, well, what do you want to create?
It's that get curious. Like they're like, oh, and so usually somebody's feeling victim about something that they weren't able to do, that wasn't going forward. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to create, and how can we make that happen? Like with my daughter, even, when she's feeling put upon by something, we will have that conversation of, what is it that you wanted to create that wasn't happening? And let's do that. So she wanted horse riding lessons, and she didn't want to play water polo anymore. And that was a big conversation. And I'm like, well, let's create that. Let's empower her to have a powerful conversation with her dad, and it's like, well, you got to figure out where you're going to ride, how much the lessons are, what you're committed to, and when you can get in lessons. So what's your commitment on water polo? You're going to finish out the season and then do riding, and how are we going to get in there? So it's that, then it changes it to creating a plan of what you want to create. Okay. And so that's more fun. It's more fun than being the victim. So usually it's an easy-ish transition out.
Oh, excellent. And that's it. It's so important for people to realize that you don't have to be a victim in life. It's a choice. Totally. 100% choice. I mean, like with the ovarian cyst rupturing, I could be like, oh, this sucks. Now I don't get to go to Amsterdam, and I have to figure out like how to do this work from bed, and, and really, really make it work virtually. And right. And I did that. It's like, okay, what do I want to create here? I say that I want to create the possibility of working from anywhere, literally. And this is a chance, like this is a huge test to see if I can pull it off, Right. Oh, definitely. And you're able to do it. Yes, I was able to do it. I'm like, oh, well, I really still do want to go to Amsterdam, and I can see I probably don't have to. Right. That now everything becomes a choice, that you're able to help people from anywhere. And then if you want to do something, now you can make it work with your schedule, with your daughter, instead of, oh, in order to do this, I have to sacrifice something else now.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my last biggest hangups, is that if I'm going to be successful in business, I will be a bad mom because I'm going to be gone from my daughter all the time.
Right. And it just shows that you can do all the things you want. You just have to make the choice to commit to it and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And figure it out, and ask people, ask for their assistance, their resources, whatever it is. And yeah, anything is figure outable, the workout, right. Whatever that is. You can.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I say that all the time, that everything is figure outable. Just don't ask me how to spell that. Because it'll probably be different. Right.
Yeah.
Spell check will go, what? And then that's it. So awesome. Well, Nicole, I want to thank you for coming on the Big Movement podcast today, as you've been an amazing guest, to sharing your wisdom with your background that's so diverse, and how you've built a business that's around your lifestyle now.
Yeah. Thank you. And we do want to reach 1 billion people. That's what I'm committed to. I'm out there to get this and have it available, and that people know about it. That's why I'm doing this too. It's important work.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and have an awesome day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.